Montreal has been described as a city of 1,000 spires. Mark Twain once called it a city where you couldn't throw a brick without hitting a church window. For much of Quebec's history, the church controlled most aspects of public life. Although its influence has steadily declined since the 1960s, the churches themselves remain, serving as a reminder of the city's religious origins.
The churches in Montreal, because of their spires, because of their name, the sound that they provide in the neighborhood, are important defining pieces of Montreal's landscape and city life somehow.
There are 650 places of worship on the island of Montreal, but declining church attendance means that many of them are now sitting empty, often in disrepair. The story of the Saint-Sauveur Church on the corner of Saint-Denis and Viger streets is, in many ways, representative of the challenges facing these historic churches.
It was one of the first and earliest Anglican churches before it was taken over by the Malachite Christians, and it played a role in supporting a new community of immigrants.
In the early 1990s, the church's growing congregation found that the aging building no longer served its needs.
Nous avons vendu l'église de Viger Saint-Denis car
we sold the Viger-Saint-Denis church simply because of parking problems. It had nothing to do with our family having less faith, only a question of practicality.
The church sat vacant for over a decade. Eventually, it was acquired by the Centre Hospitalier de l'Université de Montréal, or CHUM, who are building a new hospital on the site. Although heritage groups had hoped that the church would be incorporated into the new design, CHUM recently announced that it plans to demolish the building, preserving only the spire.
The acquisition by CHUM was seen as a positive thing, considering the kind of function that it could house as part of the medical center. You know, I mean, they always need a conference hall, they always need some places where people can find some humanity. People don't realize the importance of chapels.
There's no reason, in my mind, for example, why they couldn't have kept the church structure and turned it into an open hall of a service for St. Luke Hospital or the University Hospital of the University of Montreal. Because there is this glorious space inside, as all churches have.
The church will only be kept as a spire, and not the volume itself, and not even the houses on Saint Denis Street. I mean, it will be completely detached. It will be like extracting a bone from a body.
This type of preservation has been done before. The Université du Québec à Montréal kept only the spire of the Saint-Jacques Cathedral when it demolished the building in 1973.
I think what they did with the old Roman Catholic Cathedral, that parts of which were preserved in UQAM, was an abomination. They just kept the pretty parts, the tower and the St. Catherine Street facade. That's tokenism of the worst kind, as far as I'm concerned.
Keeping churches intact may be a top priority for preservationists, but it's much less important to another major player, the Catholic diocese.
They're doing it for their own interest, not for the interest of heritage. They're doing it disposing of property one after the other one. But the diocese will operate like a business corporation. We don't know what is their soul on this matter.
Still, it takes more than soul to keep an old church running. It also takes money.
L'entretien, ça coûte beaucoup.
Maintenance costs a lot. It's a lot of money. It's crazy. A little thing and you'll pay thousands of dollars for a little thing.
To keep them in good condition, they need to be heated. So that from the point of view of the church, to spend money on heating buildings that nobody wants or uses is insane.
What's the point of renovating a church completely if it doesn't have parking, if it doesn't have rooms or space for meetings or community activities? What's the point of doing that?
Perhaps the solution lies in transforming rather than in preserving these churches.
The Protestant churches have lots of extra rooms for social activities, Sunday schools and so on, so that's easily recyclable.
In the basement of this building is an old bowling alley. Churches were community centers, and this one like all the others. And today, here, There's a day center for street people with a creative arts program. There's an agency of the National United Church which has worked with immigrants and refugees for a century or so. There's an inner city kids program. Parents are picking up their kids, as you can tell right now.
Culture is something alive. And if it's not used, then it's not much of a culture anymore, you know. I mean, let's call it a mausoleum. I don't think Quebecers should be forced to live in the museum. Yeah. You know, I mean, culture is transmission. And if there isn't transmission in one form, then there is transmission in another form.
The fate of Montreal's abandoned churches is an uncertain one. Some find new lives as condos, ballet schools, or community centers. Yet others face destruction at the hands of a wrecking ball, victims of urban development. But some churches are alive and well, their congregations growing and thriving against all odds. In today's secular society, how does a church avoid the fate of Saint-Sauveur and so many others?
With a lot of faith.